Welcome back to another episode of 161st and River. And today we are going to be talking about the latest in Yankee land. We have a lot to discuss since there's been a lot that's gone down. Our last episode was Saturday before the snow, where we talked about potential starting pitchers they might want to or should look at heading into spring training, and it seems that they've kind of abandoned that they will not be looking at the starting pitching market from every indication that everyone around the team has given, and even today. And we'll get into some things today, but they also desperately needed to add to the bullpen. They did. I just don't think they added to the bullpen in the way any of us expected them to add to this bullpen. So today they made a trade with the Colorado Rockies and acquired right-handed pitcher Angel Chiavelli, something like that. So if I'm butchering his name, I am sorry. The numbers on the surface look like crap. A 1-5 record with a 7.06 ERA for the Colorado Rockies. That's horrible. But the Yankees see something in him. Cashman noted that his sinker and his slider and fastball are very good, and he noted that he really liked those pitches. He has minor league options, one minor league option remaining. The Yankees also could have looked to this, that his away ERA was much better than at home. He was 0-4 with a 7.24 ERA at Coors Field. Away from Coors Field, he was 1-1 with a 6.84 ERA. Again, ERA in the high sixes isn't spectacular, but it is better than was. He gave up more home runs on the road. That's something to watch, but he walked less batters. Oh, he did strike out less in less appearances too. So while it's not a name that jumps out, while it's not the flashy name we all wanted, Mason Miller's a fantasy. It's a pipe dream. That's never happening. There are other guys that we can look to. I've mentioned on here Jojo Romero, Garrett Clevenger, Enright, I believe, is in Tampa now. And there are other guys around the league, that get moved every day that I've mentioned to nauseum. Did I expect this? No. Did they give up anything that means anything? No. They gave up TJ Rumfield, who's a great prospect. I like him. I've always liked him. But he's a right-hand hitting first baseman. A left-hand hitting first baseman, and Ben Rice is a left-hand hitting first baseman with more potential. So the Yankees rightfully traded him for what could be an asset. Now, can Cavelli be an asset for the Yankees? Yeah. He can also suck. So we'll see. We don't know what we're going to get. And the bullpen now, the Yankee bullpen now breaks down and has a little bit more depth for what it's worth. The Yankee bullpen, because what you did was, if Cade Winquest doesn't, and I've heard from people around, the word on the street, as I like to call it, is the Yankees are super, super high on Cade Winquest. They think that he can pitch in the final 9 outs of a game. They really like his stuff. They think having him with Matt Blake and in spring training is going to work wonders for him. Obviously, we'll have to see. If he sucks in spring training, he's probably not going to make the team. And at that point, they have to figure out the waiver and all that sort of stuff. But at least Chiavelli has major league experience and has a minor league option. So if he's not good in spring training, he goes to AAA and he's the next man up. Same with Jake Bird, which Matt Blake spoke on Yankee Hot Stove last night. I wrote about it in Last Word on Sports. Go there to read more about it. In there, I wrote about, Jake Bird. He spoke about Jake Bird a little bit and was like, yeah, like we sent him down, but we think we unlock something with him later in the year. It's like, good, please do tell. Like, what did you unlock? What did you find with him? And it was kind of like, all over the place. Let me find it. Jake Bird. I think the biggest thing was trusting his stuff in the zone, Blake said. I think that his stuff, he's really got big shapes, that big sweeper, big breaking ball. The pitch is all around, moving a lot. So we've got to get him in the zone at a high rate and limit the amount of walks. He got beat up those couple of times when he was with the Yankees, but he's had a great offseason. They adjusted his sinker a bit to kind of move the profile and limit some of the hard contact against right-handed batters. He kept reiterating that he has to be aggressive in the zone and he has to attack in the zone. And then he mentioned something at the end, and it's, look, the Yankees a lot, and I'll come on here and I'll shit on them. I don't really care. I mean, I do care, but I'm here also to tell the truth. Before, formulating relationships is great. I'm also not going to bullshit the people that take the time and watch this. And I thank everyone who does take the time. But Jake Bird, when he came over from Colorado, was so overworked in that bullpen. They used him like almost every day out of necessity because of how bad they are. The Colorado Rockies were a very bad organization. They fired Buddy Black, who was a great manager. They fired him in season because they felt they needed a change. After a day before saying he's not going anywhere, they fire him the next day. Then at the end of the year, they fire or part ways, whatever the term was, with the general manager who had been there forever. And they brought in, Mr. Moneyball Paul Taboni. I think D. Podesta's there. Taboni's in Washington. And they've become a little bit more analytical this offseason. And Brian Cashman, and this should be noted, and Cashman spoke about it today. I didn't put it in here. I don't even think I put it in my story after that, but he did speak about that he has a relationship working with D. Podesta from when D. Podesta was with the Athletics and with the Mets. I believe he was with the Mets, but specifically with Oakland when they were the Oakland Athletics. So those front offices, the Yankees and Rockies front office, have a very good relationship, which would be something I would dog eat here, because they have some players that, if the Yankees need a platoon outfielder, what come July, like they can look there. If the Yankees need a relief pitcher in July and they have someone pitching good, I would dog eat the Colorado Rockies in your mental banks, because they do have a working relationship. And obviously we've seen the Yankees and the Rockies make 3 trades since the middle of July, right? They made the trade for Ryan McMahon and Jake Bird. Those are 2 separate transactions, different administration, but there are still people in that front office now that were there, and they become analytical a little bit more than they were. And which is why you hire a guy like D. Podesta. Where I'm going with that is, in an organization like the Yankees that's very highly analytical, they pay attention to certain things like rest days and flex days, and, well, we're not going to get you into a game this day. Or Buck Showalter always used to hone in on this, where if you get someone up in the bullpen and really get them fired up and ready, you better put them into a game. Because if not, they're putting out the same physical exertion in the bullpen, getting mentally ready to come into a game, especially within the final 9 outs, which Jake Bird was pitching in the final 9 outs for the Rockies. The physical exertion, you work yourself up mentally to come into the game. If you don't put them in the game in that situation, it could have ripple effects because they work themselves up. It's pretty much like they're pitching 2 outings in one, which is why, we all get, our panties in a bunch, for lack of better words, when we get in season and we are looking at the bullpen chart. You'll see some days when they go, if they go like 13 in a row, you'll see I'll post on X after I post the lineup, like what the bullpen availability looks like for that day. Now, Aaron Boone might say in his post-game media availability something completely different, which is what it is. But he could also say, you know, well, Bednar, like if Bednar goes like 4 out of 5, he's not going to be available. Like if he goes 2 off day 2, he's off for 2 games. And the Yankees are very good at doing that. Why? Because it limits injuries and it limits what happened with Jake Bird. What happened with Jake Bird, unfairly or not, what happened to him was he got worn down because they used him so much. So by the time he got to the Yankees, he was a lost cause, and he was a lost cause in AAA. So and I don't even have him on the chart here because he has minor league options. And to be fair, he would share a spot with Chiavelli, and you might be like, well, then why does Winquist have a spot? Winquist doesn't have minor league options. Winquist right now has to be on the 26-man roster, or else they have to designate him for assignment. And then he has to go through waivers, and either someone will claim him, which I'm sure one of these, mediocre teams like the Nationals or Rockies or White Sox would claim him, stick him in their bullpen, and we'll see. Like Ryan Yarbrough and Paul Blackburn, they're each making $2.5 million. Neither one of them have options. Guess what? They're going to be in the bullpen. I'll be encouraged and excited to hear exactly what Aaron Boone's plan with Yarbrough and Blackburn are, assuming the rotation and bullpen are fully happy. Fully healthy, I should say. If everyone's fully healthy in the starting rotation in the bullpen, what's their role? Like, are they is Blackburn gonna be a 1-inning reliever, a 2-inning reliever? Is he gonna be Michael King? Like what's the situation here? Like, is Yarbrough gonna be the new Michael King, where he can come in at any time? Who knows? Like, they generally don't know. They're very high on Brent Hedrick. Well, right now, unless there's an injury, Brent Hedrick doesn't have a place in the bullpen. You only have 8 spots, 8 or 9. It depends on the starting rotation. Obviously, if they're going into a set where they can option Will Warren or Cam Schlittler to AAA for like roster purposes and then call them up the next time they're making a start, I think they have to be down for like 10 days or something like that. And then just call them, like if they, I forget what the rule is. It's either 3 or 10. I don't know why. That's something they could do. Before we get into the Boone and Cashman quotes from today, this was a thing on Yankee Hot Stove last night. The Yankees are apparently talking to Paul Goldschmidt about an interest in a reunion. Now, I wrote a story on Monday night because Chris Kirshner of The Athletic said on his podcast that he had heard that the Yankees were looking for a right-hand platoon, so I obviously give him credit, but I wrote a story on they're looking for depth. I don't think they should be looking for depth. I don't think that this is a necessity, and cited the payroll concerns. And we'll talk about the Yankee payroll and some other teams in a few minutes if people have seen reports today. Why is a first base platoon like the top of the list? They should be trying to find a backup catcher who can catch, unless the plan is for Ben Rice to be behind the plate. But Austin Wells hits left-handed pitching, so it's not a problem. That's a whole situation that I don't even think, like, Austin Wells was league average against left-handed pitching last year. That shouldn't be the necessity. Ben Rice was okay against left-handed pitching. You also didn't show him left-handed pitching for half the year because you were scared to. And you know what? He hit the shit out of the ball against left-handed pitching. He hit the shit out of the ball against anyone. But this is a guy who can handle it. So is Paul Goldschmidt on a $2 or $3 million contract really the best allocation of funds when you can go get a reliever for that? I don't think so. And I said specifically that Goldschmidt is the player they should not be looking into getting. Now, Paul Goldschmidt, and you see this on X, Paul Goldschmidt has raked against left-handed pitching last year. I'll pull up right now in another tab. If you look at Paul Goldschmidt, and then, the playoffs. He played in 2 playoff games last year. Like, let's give it a rest here. He played against because they should have played him in game 1 against Gausman. And that's on them. They did a really bad job. If we're going to look, okay. He was abysmal in the second half. Abysmal. After the All-Star break. He was horrible. Versus left-handed pitching, he had a 3.35 batting average. It's almost 100 points lower for against right-handed pitching. It's 168 plate appearances he had last year against left-handed pitching. And it was specifically against left-handed starters that he was very good. Left-handed reliever. Actually, he was very good against relief pitching in general from both sides of the plate. Almost identical numbers. A little bit better against lefties, but almost identical numbers. He batted 200 coming into the game as a pinch hitter. That's something the Yankees should look at, because that's something that they should totally look at, because they would a lot of times use him in that role. He was abysmal in high leverage. He was very good in medium and low, but as most of the team was last year, and I think I need to look at this in a second, because this should be something this should be something that the Yankees need to look into this year. Because they seem to be abysmal in high leverage as a team. So let me see if this gives me win probability, base running, situational hitting. What was their? I want their batting average in high leverage. That's all I want. Like, they were pretty bad in high leverage, if I remember. Like, cumulatively, like as a team. Let me see if I can get this generated. Cumulatively as a team, they were really bad in high leverage. Using baseball. Give me these high leverage numbers from 2025 whole line and cumulative. Okay, so while that generates and we find that information, I don't think Paul Goldschmidt should be the option for the Yankees if they have to go in this direction. They bring Nick Torres into spring training. He's cheaper. If he hits left-handed pitching in spring training, try it. If not, you cut him. Who cares? That's my philosophy on that. Ty France is an option. Wilmer Flores, if you really want to go for the hitter, is more of an option than Goldschmidt. Those are the three I really found that are going to be cheap. Obviously, the Yankees would probably be more comfortable with Goldschmidt because he was just here and they're truly running it back. Let's get into that. I'll start with Boone. Shit. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm going to start with Aaron Boone in just a second here. I don't know why it's not letting me. So Aaron Boone was so Bellinger, Boone, and Cashman all spoke today. Bellinger, it was all like the normal stuff. If you want to read more on Bellinger, I wrote about it in Last Word on Sports. It was very like general, like I'm happy to be back. Yet I found it notable, and I cited it a little bit, that Judge spoke to him during the negotiations. They kept it very general, but I did find that interesting since Judge didn't speak to Juan Soto last offseason during those negotiations. So I did find it, rather interesting that conversations were held. Why isn't this working? Delete. Fuck. on. Just give me 2 seconds. I don't know why StreamYard is like bugging out right now. Last one. What if I did this? Okay. There we go. All right. That works. So Boone said he was, I can't even read that. Boone said he was in his office when he found out about the news that Bellinger was back. Matt Blake, I guess, broke it to him. And there was a rumble and roar through the Yankee clubhouse when they found out he was back. He spoke about Dominguez and Jones pretty much saying they'll both have a part in this. They'll be at bats to go around. I think more so Dominguez than Jones. That's just speculation there. Because things can happen. The health of people can get confusing. Then the next question was like, how's Judge feeling? And it's like, yeah, he's great. It's like, wait a minute. Like, you were just unsure about the health. Now Judge is great. Okay, I'll play. Then he spoke about Bellinger first. He's so good for them to be able to play multiple different positions. He plays a really good center field. He plays really good all around. He didn't play him at first base, but he could do it. And then Chris Kirschner of The Athletic, who loves to ask great questions, asked him, and he asked Cashman the same, a really great question, which was like about running it back. Like, why do you guys think this is going to work this time around? And he answered, like, I talked to a lot of you guys about that. Boone said, referring to as many press conferences throughout the last year. In so many ways, it's as good as our team has been heading into the postseason that year that I've been here. Obviously, we got beat up in the division round. It didn't go our way. It doesn't mean it doesn't go our way this time. I'm like, that's such oh my God. He also mentioned the improvements around the American League East. That was my favorite. Well, the AL East is going to be great, but, we're going to have, Bednar, Duvall, Rosario, as I cited here, the whole year. So it's like, it's fine. And like, we have guys. And I'm like, this is horrible. Like, you have fans right now who are beyond pissed at this organization because they have done virtually nothing this offseason. And I retweeted the Joel Sherman clip yesterday. First of all, I want to say I love Joel. And I think people have taken it a different way from how I believe he intended it. He intended it as Yankee fans were so pissed that they gave Trent the qualifying offer because they thought it would preclude the Yankees from making the Bellinger signing. And he's like, now I have to pull up the clip. So he was going nuts on it. And I'm like, okay, like, this is something. Like, he definitely has a point, but so do Yankee fans. Yankee fans are mad because they want something new. They want something new this offseason, and guess what? They haven't gotten it because the Yankees have been unreluctant to go the extra mile. And Yankee fans weren't as much worried because why is this? Yes. Let's see if this works. I don't know if it's going to. Okay. This is what Joel Sherman said.
And again, most of the whiners are also people who were saying, well, they signed Grisham. That means that Hal's going to get cheap and not bring Bellinger back. Will any of those people shut the fuck up now? they will not shut the fuck up because they like that lane that's either stupid or they enjoy being stupid.
Okay, so Joel is a little misguided. So the whiners were whining about the qualifying offer being given because not only did they think it would preclude the Yankees from going out and getting Bellinger, the whiners believed that it would preclude the Yankees from going out and making other moves, like adding a bullpen arm or a starting pitcher of that has cachet in this league. I think Ryan Weathers is going to be great. I also think Ryan Weathers is better in the bullpen. And obviously, as you get healthy, things will happen and the roster is going to take shape. We've also gone through 4 straight years of the Boone June swoon, which I've talked about in here that needs to end. And Hal Steinbrenner spoke at his postseason, after the postseason press conference, his postmortem, and he cited that without being asked about that. He cited that being a problem, that they can't have this swoon because that swoon costed them the division. That swoon in there was the 4-game set where they got swept the first time ever up at Rogers Center. That 4-game set was in there. Was in that Boone June swoon. They win one of those games, they win the American League East. And guess what? The entire mental outlook of the rest of the season is completely changed. Who knows if mentally they're like, okay, we can do this. We can go beat Toronto. And guess what? Those games that were up at Rogers Center, they're in New York. Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil, they pitched better against the Blue Jays in Yankee Stadium. I don't think anyone's spoken about that. I will. They all pitched better at Yankee Stadium against the Toronto Blue Jays. Everyone did. The only one who didn't was Cam Schlittler in the start where he was tipping, and he pitched great against the Blue Jays at the stadium in the final game of the year. So that's one issue that I take from this whole shit show of, this. So Cashman, this is my favorite. I've been openly willing to challenge anyone that we don't have a championship caliber roster. Well, shit, Brian. That's an opinion. Now, I agree that this roster can be championship caliber. Hell, did anyone think the 2019 Nationals were championship caliber? I didn't. The 23 Rangers, or some other examples. There are a bunch of recent examples. Did anyone think that the Arizona Diamondbacks in 23 were championship caliber? No, they were 8. They won one more game than the Yankees did in the regular season. And in a weak National League, they went on a run and went to the World Series. They lost the World Series, but guess what? They had multiple opportunities. They could have won game 1. And that what they win, like game 3? Like they could have won game 1, where they gave up the game-tying home run in the 9th. So, saying that this roster isn't a championship caliber roster, I don't think is so twofold. Because there are parts of this roster that are, and there are parts that aren't. And we'll get to one of the parts that aren't. The bullpen's a mess. And I wrote that yesterday. This bullpen's a shit show. And I wrote yesterday, there are so many question marks about this bullpen. Well, if this guy works, if that guy works, if this goes right, cool. Guess what? If I go to the gas station and I play the lottery, maybe I'll win it, but I probably won't. Right? It's the same thing. If I open my phone right now and go on the Jackpocket app and play my favorite numbers, maybe I'll win $1. Probably I won't. Probably I'll lose my wager. Cool. That's a question mark. There are a lot of question marks. I can walk outside and maybe I'll get struck by lightning tonight, God forbid. Doesn't mean I will. Doesn't mean I won't. So for Brian Cashman to be like, I think we have a championship caliber roster, I'll challenge anyone. Well, no one's going to challenge you. Because you're going to have the shills like Joel Sherman and Michael Kay go on the radio station and be like, well, the Yankees are favored to win the American League East because they have a 95, because the FanDuel projects them to win 93 games next year, and who bet against Vegas? If you're so sure of it, bet against Vegas. Well, Yeah, cool. Does Vegas like predict injuries all of a sudden? I didn't realize Vegas predicted that. I really forgot. Does Vegas predict blown saves? Either way, I should add. Does Vegas predict luck? Because I would say the Yankees were extremely unlucky against Toronto. If that's something they want to say, the Yankees, yeah, fine. I think they were extremely unlucky. It felt like every time the Blue Jays put a ball in play, even without defensive lapses, it bounced the Toronto's way. Maybe it was their year of destiny, as I've said multiple times. I don't think they're going to replicate, and I don't think they're going to be as good as last year. I think the Yankees will be as good as last year if Garrett Cole comes back and isn't a mess, if Carlos Rodon is a big boy after this injury, if Anthony Volpe, and we're going to get to Volpe now. Okay, so we'll get to the injury. So Cashman said Rodon and Cole are both good. There's been no surprises so far. Rodon's in Tampa ramping up. Cash is in Tampa as well, so he's been talking to these guys. And Cole's going to go down soon. Cool. Cashman was asked about Anthony Volpe and said that Volpe's doing great. He's in Tampa. I guess they were talking the other day. And Cashman goes, he's working his tail off. And then he mentioned that his return to shortstop should be sooner rather than later. My favorite part is he twice added, like 2 different times in 2 different segments about Volpe, that he will return to shortstop immediately when he's healthy. And at the winter meetings, it was may the best man, either Volpe or Caballero, win. I took note of that. Because I'm like, well, what's this now? You're changing your story. Before, it was, next man win, next man up. Now, all of a sudden, it's, well, Volpe's doing great. Yay. Cool. I'm glad Volpe's doing great. We're just going to throw him at the wolves because who gives a shit? Well, guess what? I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've compared it to the Knicks, who I have on in the background, getting embarrassed up in Toronto. Where have I seen that before? And I've compared Anthony Volpe to Karl Anthony Towns, which is unfair to Cat because I think Cat's better, more of an asset. But are they both good players? Yes. Are they championship caliber players? Not really. Like, I don't think Anthony Volpe is a shortstop on a championship roster. I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is great on a championship roster. That's just my opinion. They both have severe deficiencies in their games that cost their team games. Right? How many times did Anthony Volpe come up last year with a chance to have a base hit up the middle and change the outcome of games? I'll sit and wait. There was a statistic, speaking of that Boone June swoon, there was a statistic that Anthony Volpe, when they were up in Toronto, they were bitching about Toronto and up in Toronto, and there's a stat that he's left 125 runners on bases in July. That's the most in baseball. Like, what the hell is that? He was horrible. So Volpe has severe deficiencies in his game. Gets one hit in those situations, they win the division. And I'm sure everything I've outlined tonight and in the past has been spoken about in the Yankees war room this offseason of, well, if this shook our way, if that shook our way, we win the division. And they would have trounced Seattle if they saw them. They wouldn't have been close. And they would have gotten back to the World Series. And they probably would have given a fair shot to beat the Dodgers. Don't know, and we'll see. But right now, the World Series favorites are the Yankees and the Dodgers, a rematch. No, I don't want to see the Dodgers. I don't know if they'll get. I think they will. I think they're so good. I also don't know if they're going to win it. So we'll see. Hopefully they have some fatigue. Cashman said that we were negotiating with the Titan when they were negotiating with Bellinger. The Titan is Scott Boras. He mentioned that the bullpen is a work in progress with a lot of quality choices. He added that they're looking to improve. He said, stay tuned. I didn't want to put stay tuned in there because he meant that kind of passively. And I was like, stay tuned is like such a loose term because stay tuned doesn't mean anything, and that can be used against him. And I don't think he meant it to be like we're making a trade or we're signing something. Like, he didn't mean it like that. He was like, stay tuned because we might make a move, but we like our depth, kind of thing. And that's been a thing for like a week now. Oh, we love our depth. We love our depth. And I'll side note, this is 3 straight weeks. The morning after or the day after the Yankee hot stove, they either sign someone or make a trade, which is kind of funny. That's about it. Boone and Cashman smoke. The Yankees coming into spring training. 2 weeks from today, pitchers and catchers report. The next time Boone and Cashman meet the media is February 13th. I'll have more information on that very soon. And we'll go from there. It's coming. If there's a major move, I don't think there will be. I don't consider Paul Goldschmidt a major move. If I'm around, we'll get on and talk about it a bit. But I'm not going to move heaven and earth to get on here for Paul Goldschmidt, much like I tried to do with Cody Bellinger. And I have to say the stream went a lot smoother than ones in the past. I had to completely reset my computer today and like erase everything that was on it and completely sign back in. It was like a whole mess. So it seems like that did the trick because this has been actually like non-laggy today, so that's good. And we'll go from there. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Have a great day. Let's go Yankees and get me to spring training. I can't wait. Like, they posted a picture before of Tampa. I'm like, oh, that looks so nice. I can't wait to be sitting down and watching like sunny Tampa and looking outside my window and there's still 10 feet of snow because New York has been like Alaska this year. Have a great day. Go Yankees.